Number 1.
This experience happened to me a long time ago, when I was very young, around 7 or 8 years old I believe. So, basically my entire family was throwing a reunion/New Year's Eve party at this huge hotel, and all of the adults decided to go down to the bar to drink, thinking all of us kids were asleep. Obviously we weren't. There was enough candy and soda there to keep us up for 27 hours, and we decided to go run out in the hallway to play a game of hide and seek. Yeah, real smart idea. Anyway, there were 6 children and we split into 2 groups of 3, each group hiding together so no one would wander off and get us all in trouble. When it was my group's turn to hide, we somehow all managed to get lost at different corners of the hotel, and being the child that I was, the thought of being lost was already frightening enough to me. After circling the floor of our room about 5 times, I decided it would be the logical thing to just go down to the bar where my parents were. Big mistake. I walked to the elevator, and when the doors opened, there was already a man in there. I didn't think much of it, as this was a big hotel. It's no surprise that someone else had to take the elevator to the main floor as well. He asked if I wanted to go down to the first floor too, and I said yes. The man was very tall and reeked of beer, and he had on a dirty trench coat and sunglasses. I tried to maintain as little eye contact with him as possible, until he asked me a rather odd question. He asked,
"You're looking for your friends, right?"
I stood, speechless, wondering how he knew what I was doing before. He then stated,
"You're the one who was playing hide and seek, aren't you?"
I mumbled, scared. Yeah? Finding it weird that he seemed to have been watching us play this game the whole time. We both remained quiet, until the doors had opened to the 3rd floor, not the main one. I just thought the man hit the wrong button or something, so I reached to hit the 1st floor button. When he reached for my arm and tried to drag me out of the elevator, I froze up as he said,
"Come on, I know where your friends are,"
gesturing to the dead end of the hallway where all the vending machines were. He walked closer to me, grabbing my arm and again attempting to drag me to the isolated section of the hall. I managed to twist away and bolted to the stairs, practically screeching the whole time. I managed to reach the main floor, only to run into my entire family, including the relatives I was playing hide and seek with, whom were looking for me the whole time I was with this man. Needless to say, I still get a little wary when I'm alone with a stranger in an elevator.
Number 2.
I have a very active 6th sense. I've had many encounters and this is just one of them. I've been working for the same company for some time now, and our building has several sets of elevators. We never use one of the elevators that are located on the other side of the building because the only service is up to the 20th floor and my office is on the 31st floor. However, all the elevators stop on the 12th floor where the office fast food is located. This particular day, after lunch, my friend and I decided to go down to the ground floor to smoke at the park across from the office. Since we were going down anyway, we can use any of the elevators to go down to the ground floor. This particular day, we decided to use the set of elevators that is located closest to the cafeteria exit. The doors opened and we clearly saw that the arrow was pointing downward. But to our surprise, when we got into the elevator, it began to ascend upward. Suddenly, the elevator stopped at the 16th floor, and when the doors opened, it was pitch black. We heard what sounded like a crying girl. We were dumbfounded because it's impossible for anyone to be in that area, since that floor is completely abandoned. My friend kept frantically pushing the close button, but no matter how many times she pushed the button, the elevator doors just wouldn't close. Because we were stuck like that for about 10 minutes already, I just closed my eyes, expecting the worst. Finally, I opened my eyes, and while the cries were still very audible in the distance, I pushed the close button in one last effort, and the doors finally closed. We descended down to the ground floor in peace and went on to the park to smoke. We were both pretty shaken by this, and from that day forward, never used that elevator again.
Number 3.
So, this is a story that happened to my mum's friend in Korea, like 10 years ago. Every time I hear this story, I still get the chills. My mum's friend lived in an apartment complex in Seoul. She was a stay-at-home mother with a young daughter, and her husband works during the days. One day, she was coming home from running errands with her daughter and got onto the elevator in her building. When she got on, she noticed there was a man wearing a cap and a yellow raincoat, and he kept his head low so that she wouldn't really see his face. She immediately felt really uneasy, and she made her daughter stand to her side, furthest away from the man. What made her feel even more uncomfortable was that when she pressed the button for her floor, there was no other lit number. And on top of that, she noticed that he was carrying something wrapped inside a newspaper close to his side. Things started to click in my mum's friend's head, and she started to panic and decided to take out her cell phone and pretend she was calling home to her husband, who was obviously really not at home and at work. She started saying things like, "Oh, I'm on the elevator and about to get off. Can you get the door for me, please?" and making it seem like her husband was waiting at home. When the elevator did reach her floor, I think it was the 12th one, she quickly got off and grabbed her daughter and started to walk as fast as she could to her apartment. She noticed that the man also got off on her floor and was slowly following her down the hallway. When my mum's friend got to her door, she started to bang on it and shout, "Hey, husband, I'm home. Please open the door," and kind of pretend like he was coming to answer the door. Upon seeing this, the man in the yellow raincoat started to walk away back towards the elevator. When he seemed to be far away enough, my mum's friend quickly picked up her daughter and slid open her door's passcode thingy. This is how usually people get into their homes in Korea, and started to frantically punch in her key code. But the problem was that the buttons would make sounds, so the man knew that no one was going to answer the door for her, and he turned around and started to run backwards towards her. My mum's friend at this point was practically screaming when she finally got her door to open. The first thing she did was throw her daughter in through the door. When she got in herself, she saw that the man was pretty much inches away from the door, but she managed to shut it and lock it before he could wedge his hand or a weapon into the door. Afterwards, looking through the door's peephole, she saw that the man was walking away back towards the elevator. Several months later, my mum's friend was watching the news, and there was a coverage on the capture of a serial killer named Yoo Young-chul, who used to kill a lot of prostitutes. She told my mum she could never forget the dread she felt when she saw the two familiar yellow raincoat and hat that he was wearing when apprehended. This picture shows him and his infamous yellow raincoat, which he was wearing when he encountered my mum's friend.
Number 4.
I should start this off by saying that due to FERPA, there's only so much I can say about my stories. I work for the Residential Hall Association at the University of Nevada, and that is about as much as I can tell you about myself. Since a few of the university's residence halls are built over what used to be a cemetery, there are always rumors of ghosts or other creatures roaming the halls. I can't attest to this 100% because I haven't had any experiences, but I'll be damned if the residents haven't. One thing that lines up with a few of the cases though, is that there are usually elevator issues in the buildings before really freaky shit goes down. It's not just the age either. Peavine, the newest hall that just opened, has been plagued with elevator issues from day one. My first ever strange complaint came from Argenta, and that is where the issues began this year. Argenta is known for two things: elevators that randomly plummet, and the DC, the Down Under Cafe. Around 10 PM, one of the DC workers claimed to have seen a student with a plate wandering around looking for food. She informed him that he needed to leave due to it being well past closing time. She noted that something seemed off about the student. He just stared back in response to her requests, but something about his look made her feel extremely uncomfortable. After a few minutes of staring, he licked the plate, which had nothing on it, and walked away. Around a week after this incident, the elevators in Peavine had an issue where they would stop on floors people had not requested to go to. Eventually the elevators stopped working altogether, and this sign was posted while we waited for maintenance team to fix it. Around midnight though, a resident claimed to have seen an older man arrive in the 4th floor of the elevator. There's two reasons this shouldn't have ever happened. First, there are 2 doors which require a key card to even enter the key area, which is also locked late at night, and I needed to even make it to the elevator area, of course, in addition to an RA working at the front desk. And 2, this man was far too old to be living in the resident halls, according to the report. The resident claimed that the man stared at her for a moment through the glass of the study room, and then approached the glass for a moment before heading to the doors that actually led to the 2 wings for the floor. He approached the doors and proceeded to slam his head against the doors multiple times in what I can only assume was an attempt to get in. After a few good bangs, he walked back to the elevator, which took him back down to wherever the fuck he came from. Unknown to the residents of Peavine, there is actually a 6th residential floor that was never finished due to the university falling behind on the construction of the hall. It had been labelled as the roof access, and actually did serve as the roof access until we received a report from an RA. She was heading to the workroom on the 1st floor to work on some posters for the speed friending program that they are having, when the light for the 1st floor went out. She didn't think of this as an issue, as the elevators have all kinds of issues, until the elevators started moving up. An elevator stop exists for the 6th floor and was made operational before the plan to open the 6th floor was cancelled. However, the buttons in the elevator only go up to the 5th floor. When the doors opened, she said the whole area was mostly dark, but she could make out some features that the other floors have, such as a study lounge and a social lounge just past what would have been the doors to the 2 wings. She claimed there was a horrible smell coming from the wings, like the university had been pumping sewage into the wings for years. She repeatedly mashed the buttons to close the door and to go down again, but the elevator would just close and then immediately reopen. Then, she heard something skittering from down the right wing. The steps were wet and rapid, like someone was running through the rain. Eventually, while the door was closed, the footsteps stopped right outside of the elevator, and a wet bang was heard against the door. The RA said the door then shut, and she was able to go down.
Number 5.
I took in a puppy a few months ago. Her original owners weren't able to bond with her, said she was unresponsive and disobedient and didn't have the look they wanted. I've got no idea what they were talking about. She's the best behaved dog I've ever known, and she's downright adorable, so I'm used to people stopping me in the street so they can pet her. Usually, people will ask before they touch her, or at the very least, they'll say something like, "Oh my god, look at that dog," etc., to let me know they're obviously gonna come over and say hi to her. I'm pretty much fine with that. What I'm not fine with is what happened on one of my earlier weeks with her. I live in a tiny seaside town, one of those places where the location is beautiful, but the locals are racists. And I kind of take my dog on a tour all over the areas closest to the sea whenever I walk her. We'll walk along the beach, down to the promenade, around the miniature lakes, and then home. probably not smart to stick to the same route every day, but I've switched things up since then. We were at the final stage of our walk, making a couple laps around the lakes, when we walked past a man. Now, a lot of old men gather there on a regular basis. I didn't think much of one dude sitting on a bench by the water. I told myself he was staring because my dog was cute. I just passed by him. Then, from behind me, I hear him say,
"Sit."
And my dog, who is much more obedient than her previous owners let on, sits down and looks up at me, all happy and expecting a treat. I frown back at the guy, see that he's still on the bench, and quickly encourage my puppy to start walking again. We haven't even gotten 5 feet further down the path before the guy says,
"Sit."
And my dog does. I turn around again, already glaring, and see that the man is now on his feet. I tell my dog to keep walking and pick up my pace, trying to get over to the path that leads up to the main street. We're still nowhere near the path when the man yells,
"Sit."
And my dog does. She's starting to look confused, but I'm pretty much terrified. He's coming over to us, and he's catching up fairly quickly. He's close enough that even without my glasses, I can tell that he's grinning. At that point, I'd had enough. I forgot about getting to the path, just scooped up my dog off the ground, ran straight up the hill to the side of us, and climbed over the little fence that separates the lakes from the street. The man didn't follow, but stayed at the bottom of the hill looking up at us, not smiling anymore. I'd never seen him before and haven't seen him since, and I hope it stays that way. I don't know exactly what his intentions were, but it seemed to me like he was using my dog's obedience to slow me down, to keep me from getting away from him, so I doubt they were good. I'm glad I didn't stick around to find out.
Hey guys, it's the Grim Reader here. I hope you enjoyed listening through that. If you did, please slap a like, and if you haven't already, why not subscribe to be notified of future uploads? If you have a story you want me to narrate, please send it to my email in the description box. Once again, thanks a lot for listening.